The Life Talk Show is about testimonies where you can listen to be inspired, encouraged, uplifted, and entertained. It's the life. Good morning, Marc. Thank you for coming on to the Life Talk Show. How are you?
Good morning, Ashley. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. So one of the things that I really like about your testimony is the unique story behind it, because you don't come across too many Jewish people who are atheists, because in the word, it says that you are his chosen people, that you're his possession. So take us on your spiritual journey of how you went from being an atheist to knowing the one and true living God.
Yeah, thank you. It definitely is not very common, I know, for Jewish people to be atheists. I was raised in a small sect of Judaism called Humanistic Judaism, which essentially celebrates our heritage as a Jewish people, that we acknowledge our tribulations and persecution through the years, but it's more secular than it's more of a belief in the power of mankind than the power of God. So it's really truly atheist. And that's the way I was raised my entire life, and all the way up until my late adult years. I'm now 48 years old. That's the way I was raised to believe. As I got older, I didn't practice as much as far as my Judaism. I interfaith married an Episcopal, my late wife Missy, and I remained an atheist up until about a year prior to Missy passing away. In order to tell this story properly, I have to tell you what I do for a living. I'm a pilot. I was 20 years Air Force pilot, flew F-16s, and I taught trainers. And in 2014, I retired and I started working for Southwest Airlines, and I'm now a commercial airline pilot for Southwest Airlines. Well, as I came on to the airlines, several people that I flew with would tell me that there's this great book I should read about being an airline pilot. It's called Fate is the Hunter by Ernest Gann. Now, being a prior military pilot, for a long time I kind of ignored that recommendation because, to be honest, the airline job is a good job. It's a fun job, but the flying itself was not near as exciting as what I did in the military, so reading the book didn't interest me. Mm-hmm. But about a year before Missy passed away, like I said, for whatever reason, I know now why, I just decided, okay, everyone's been pushing this book, I'll read this book.
Okay, so the very fact that people have been pretty much recommending a book for you to read, and you didn't catch the revelation because actually it was a divine setup from God, but you didn't think that far into it. So the reason why I say that it was a divine setup, just knowing a little bit of your backstory, is because he wanted to prepare you for the passing of your wife. Now, do you want to share with us how your wife passed away, or?
Sure, yeah, that's not a problem. My wife was on a prescription sleeping pill medication. She was a brilliant woman and held several high-profile positions here in Dallas, and had her own public relations business, and it was hard for her to turn her brain off at night. So she would take a sleeping pill each night, and we had been out that night drinking with friends, and the combination of the sleeping pill and the alcohol unfortunately shut her respiratory system down, and she passed away. And I know now that me finding my faith was to prepare me for that moment and everything that followed, because I don't know how I could have gotten through that without having faith.
Okay, so at that moment, when did God intervene? Like, when did he begin to help you through the process of mourning your wife's death? And what are some of the things that he, told you or he shared with you?
So just to back up a little bit, that book that was being pushed on me, I guess you could say, it's just an aviation book, and it's about the early days of airline flying. But the author, it's his memoirs, survived so many instances in aviation where he should have died. I know as a pilot that nobody should survive the things that he did, and there were so many of those. I knew when I put that book down that there was a God. I knew that he had a guardian angel, and there's no other way he could have survived as many times as he did. And that inspired me to start going to church with my wife. My wife was an Episcopal, and we started going to Episcopal church together here in Dallas. And every time I went to church, the sermon felt like it was directed right at me. I mean, it just really spoke to me. So every time I went, I wanted to go more, and I wanted to go more. So now, fast forward to your question, how did I know, or how did God prepare me for that? Those sermons and my desire to find Jesus and find the Lord really prepared me, because when she died, of course I was upset. Of course it was devastating, but it was also, I knew that she's still there. She's going, her life goes on in a different form, because she was a woman of faith, and God will take care of her and comfort her, and I will see her again when my mission here is complete. So after she passed away, there were, I guess reading is really how God found me. So he found me first through an aviation book, but then there were some other books now that were religious based that came into my life through various odd ways that were, again, very specific to what I needed. Because I was raised an atheist, I could not just find God and accept it all right away. Of course, it would take time, but my curiosity was there enough that I wanted to learn more. Well, we went to my family's vacation property shortly after my wife passed away, and people leave books there over the years, and there happened to be a book called How to Know God Exists by Ray Comfort. And that book, Ray Comfort, was written by a man who was, like myself, a lifelong atheist until he found the truth through science.
Okay, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back more with Marc to talk about what he found in this book that pretty much God ordered your steps to. We'll be back. Hi, my name is Ashley Cotton, the host for the Life Talk Show, and I'm also a transformation life coach. Here's what I can offer: one-on-one coaching, laser calls to check in, and also virtual or in-person meetings. Please, you can find me on Yelp, Google, and also on social media platforms. Welcome back to the Life Talk Show, and we are still here with Marc. So right before we went on break, Marc was going to share with us the book that he came across going to his family's property.
Yes. So the first book that I read was, again, How to Know God Exists by Ray Comfort. And Ray Comfort was an engineer by trade and grew up most of his life as an atheist. But through his work in science and in engineering and in mathematics, he started to realize that the laws of nature and the laws of mathematics and science overlap each other, and God's fingerprint is so evident that he could no longer deny. And that is the type of book I needed at that time, because I wasn't just going to take anything on faith, but my spiritual curiosity was definitely there, and I wanted to learn more about this God and faith. So that book was instrumental in developing my understanding of God from a more secular lead-in to understanding that everything that I thought I knew about this world in terms of history and science was really God, and I'd been blind to it that whole time. I came back from that vacation, and I have a friend that I also work with at Southwest Airlines who's a strong man of faith, him and his family. And I told him how excited I was that I had read this book, and he said, well, if you like that book, then you have to read this book. So he handed me another book, and this book is called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And again, it takes the concept of atheism and the arguments that are presented for atheism, and he looks at that through logic, science, and history. Not through the Bible, but it does get into the Bible, and it talks about proving how things in the Bible are true based on history and science and rational, logical explanations. And that book was even better than I thought the first one in proving to me from somebody who had been a lifelong atheist why my presumptions had always been flawed and what the correct answer was and the correct answer is. And especially where it got into discussing the history and various passages of the Bible, I could now correlate what I was learning through going to church, because I continued to go to church even after my wife passed, because the fire was now burning in my belly to create this relationship with God that I'd been denying my whole life. And I could now correlate Bible passages with what they meant, what actually happened in history, and how they were prophesized. And to me, that solidified it.
Okay, so one of the biggest things that I really want to highlight, with your story, because it's so unique, is that God didn't present himself, one, in a religious way to you. Second, he did not, Bible thump you, or people were Bible thumping you and bringing scriptures to you to get you to believe. But he shared with you in such a unique way because, engineers in a way that, you operate because you're a pilot. And so he had to get to the place of being on your level, so to speak, so you can comprehend who he is. And so one of the things is that you discovered him, or he, found you through those two books. And it was like seeds being planted that he was using people as vessels to get to you, to communicate to you through them, and also through the books. And each time it got better. The next book got better. So just with that being said, intimately knowing him now versus what you thought you knew about him or maybe didn't believe about him, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first developed a curiosity to look into this faith that I had been denying my whole life, it was just that. It was, I'm not completely sold yet, but I think I might be wrong. And if I am wrong, I better start looking into it. That was kind of how I approached it at that time. And of course, now, having been through those two books and going to church as a regular member and having friends of faith to talk to about this, and realizing that I'm one of God's children and I'm loved and I'm saved, is a whole other beautiful thing that it's really helped me get past the hardship of losing my wife, who I love dearly, to know that I'm going to be taken care of, that I am loved on a spiritual level, and to find fulfillment in my life. I mean, I was just kind of meandering through life before without much purpose, and now I know that there's a higher purpose to it.
That's awesome. And the reason why it's awesome is because God created us individually, uniquely in his image. And so he knows how to get to you. He knows how to find you, when we're lost. And so to you, you may be wondering or questioning about whether God is real. Does he exist? Especially during this COVID-19, especially with the race riots and everything that's going on, that he knows who you are. He has numbered the hairs on your head, and he knows each number that's there. And so if anything, the takeaway from this would be that God can get to you. He can communicate to you the way that he needs to in order for you on your level to comprehend him. And so, Marc, getting back to your story, what is it that you find interesting about God, like within your own personal relationship?
I think it's pretty much exactly what you said, that you can't constrain God in terms of how he operates. And he knew that being a lifelong atheist, I was never going to find him in the traditional manner. And aviation was the way to get to me. And also the fact that he didn't wait until Missy passed away to try to reach out to me, because at that point I would probably be angry and not really accepting. He did that before she passed away to prepare me, and that's always out of love. And going forward, my relationship now...
Cut that. Let's answer that again with, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
No problem.
Start from the beginning on this piece.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry to cut you off in the middle.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I think it's exactly what you said, that God works in his own way to reach the people he wants to reach when he wants to reach them. I was never going to be found in the traditional way through preaching, through church, whatever. As a lifelong atheist, I needed him to come to me through my interests, which was aviation. And that's exactly what he did through that book. Additionally, he didn't wait until Missy passed away to find me, because he wanted to prepare me. He didn't want me to have to go through that experience alone. He showed his grace and his love by finding me ahead of time and preparing me for that terrible experience, but he carried me through it.
And right now we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back more with Marc. So stay tuned. Hey, it's your girl Ashley, and if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Be sure to share, like, tag, and follow. Welcome back to the Life Talk Show, and we are still here with Marc, and right now we're about to put him in a hot seat with our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, so the first question is, what is your favorite Bible verse that you go to?
My favorite Bible verse is not yet determined, because I am so new to this that I've just recently decided, okay, I'm in. My very next step is to join a Bible study group. Nice. So I will follow up with you on that one when I start doing my Bible study. So now that I am passionate about learning my faith, I'll start learning the Bible.
And that's awesome too, because everyone's on different levels. Number 2, how do you get into the presence of the Lord?
For me, I think it's a very casual relationship. What I've learned is I can have my own individual relationship anytime I want. I don't have to go to church, but I prefer to. I mean, that's part of the learning for me, and the communion of being with other people who are of like mind is important to me.
Number 3, who would you like to meet in heaven from either the Old Testament or New Testament?
I'm going straight to the top. I want to meet Jesus. I mean, he was God's son and a perfect human.
Number 4, what do you think heaven is like?
I think everyone's heaven is different. I think each person gets to go to a place that their mind has created with the people that they love and the things that they love to do. So in other words, if you're an artist and you love art, then you're going to be in the most fantastic art studio in the world with the people that you love, forever surrounded by art and love.
Last question, number 5. In an intimate, quiet setting where it's you and God and he manifests himself to you, what would you say to him face to face?
Thank you. Thank you for finding me when I denied you for so long.
That's awesome, Marc. And so right now, whatever God is placing on your heart to say, to speak to your audience, I want you just to share with them. I want you to speak to that atheist who may not believe, and then also to the one who know who God is, has a relationship with him, but right now their faith may be a little shaky. So what do you say to those two people?
Sure. I think, first off, I think a lot of people truly confuse atheism with agnostic. Having been there myself, I never fervently denied the existence of God. I think I was always more of an agnostic, even though humanistic Judaism is claims more of an atheistic thing. So to the atheist, I would say it's okay to have those doubts. That book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, is a great place to start. If nothing else, it will allow you to see the logic and the flaws in both atheism and other religions. So if nothing else, it's just a learning experience, but I think you'll truly find that it does take more faith to be an atheist than to believe when you finally get to the end of this book. And to those who already have their relationship with God but go through moments of doubt, I would say that's completely normal. And it's okay to have that doubt. He loves you anyway. And he knows that you'll come back to him in your own way and in your own time and in your own space.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Marc, for sharing your story. And so this is where we come to the end of our show. To those that are watching, I really hope that you can take something from this. The reason why God gave me this calling and my purpose is because having a story, a testimony is so important to advancing the kingdom of God. It's so important for us as believers to plant the seed, water the seed, and then God will bring the increase. And one thing that I love about Marc's story is that everyone is on an even level playing field. No one is greater than the other. However God calls you into his kingdom, calls you for a relationship, so be it, because you're uniquely made in his image. We all are. And so I just want to encourage you to begin to find your place in the kingdom. There's room. There's never any saturation when it comes to God. He has a purpose for you. He has a plan for you, and he knows you and he loves you just the way that he loved Marc, who was an atheist and who has now been turned over to Christ. So I hope you all will join me next week for another guest. I am Ashley, your host for the Life Talk Show. I want to thank Marc for coming on, and you all have a blessed day. And remember, a transformed life equals an abundant life.